Welcome back to the next episode of Preparing for the Collapse Radio. If you've looked at the news lately, or honestly just your latest grocery receipt, you know we're in a pretty volatile time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're currently watching these massive unseasonal droughts completely disrupt the commercial agricultural yields across the Midwest.
Yeah, and simultaneously, the price of basics like eggs and fresh produce are hitting numbers that would have seemed impossible just, 3 years ago.
Right. The commercial supply chains are really fracturing under the weight of these unstable climate patterns. It's a fragile system.
Exactly. So if you think long term about preparedness, this podcast is for you. Today, we are breaking down a brilliantly disruptive article by author Spirit Walker. It's titled Stop Buying Fertilizer, Building Rich Garden Soil the Old-Fashioned Way.
And this is such a crucial pivot for anyone who's serious about survival. Spirit Walker isn't just writing theoretical essays from some air-conditioned office. He actually lives this reality.
Right. He outlines this massive paradigm shift based on his own journey. He's lived entirely off-grid in a converted schoolie in the high deserts of Arizona, and he's also homesteaded in the incredibly lush, rain-heavy environment of the Ozarks.
Yeah, which is wild when you think about it. He's pressure tested these methods across two wildly different climate extremes, and that proves the underlying biology holds up anywhere.
That real-world stress testing is really what makes this source so compelling.
Mhm.
But before we get into the actual mechanics of building soil, we have to look at the massive blind spot most of us have.
Right, the underlying mindset issue.
Yeah, exactly. Spirit Walker argues that our modern approach to gardening is fundamentally broken, and he draws this really sharp parallel to the medical industry.
It's a fantastic comparison, honestly,
Hmm.
because Americans have been deeply conditioned to treat symptoms while totally ignoring the root causes. I mean, if you have a headache, you take a pill, right?
Right. You don't necessarily drink water or try to get more sleep.
Exactly. And Spirit Walker points out that we do the exact same thing to our food supply. If a tomato plant looks yellow or stunted, the knee-jerk reaction is to just run to a big box store, buy a bag of synthetic MTK fertilizer, and dump it around the base of the plant.
You're just masking the symptom, the poor plant growth, without ever addressing the actual disease, which is dead soil.
Spot on.
It's like chugging a highly caffeinated energy drink because you haven't slept in 3 days. You get this intense, immediate spike in energy, but your body, or in this case, the garden, is still completely exhausted. The baseline depletion hasn't been fixed at all.
That analogy hits the nail on the head, especially when you look at the actual microbiology happening underground, because soil isn't just inert brown powder that holds a plant upright.
Right, it's alive.
Very alive. It is a dense, microscopic metropolis.
Yeah.
A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more living microorganisms than there are people on Earth.
Wow. That's actually hard to wrap your head around.
It is. You have these intricate mycorrhizal fungal networks acting like a subterranean internet, basically trading minerals for the sugars the plants produce. And you have bacteria, nematodes, earthworms, all cycling nutrients.
So when you dump salt-based synthetic fertilizers onto that ground, what happens?
It actually causes a catastrophic event for that ecosystem.
Wait, a catastrophic event? I mean, I understand that chemical fertilizers might not feed the bugs, but are you saying they actively harm them?
Absolutely. Those synthetic fertilizers are heavily salt-based. So think about what happens when you pour salt on a slug.
Oh, man, it severely dehydrates it.
Exactly. The same osmotic shock happens to the beneficial microbes and the delicate fungal hyphae down in the dirt. The synthetic nitrogen forces this rapid growth spurt in the plant, sure, but the salt dehydrates and kills the soil biology.
Wow. So you're trading long-term health for a short-term yield.
Yeah, and as the biology dies, the soil loses its natural ability to feed the plant. So by next season, the soil's even more sterile, and you have to buy an even bigger bag of synthetic fertilizer just to get the same results.
You literally get locked into an artificial life support system. It's a total fertilizer trap.
It really is.
So if the commercial method just turns our gardens into chemical junkies, what is the alternative here? Where does Spirit Walker look for a solution?
He looks to the ultimate self-sustaining system, the old-growth forest. If you walk into a deep, healthy woods, you never see bare dirt. Nature despises naked soil.
That makes sense. It's always covered in something.
Right. The forest floor is constantly layering itself with fallen leaves, decaying logs, organic debris. Bare soil is vulnerable soil. The sun bakes it, the wind erodes it, the rain washes it away.
Okay, I see the logic there, but let me push back on the application for a second. A forest floor is wild and, pretty messy. How does an everyday person implement a decaying forest floor in a survival garden without it turning into a chaotic weed patch? Like you'd get a fine from your homeowners association.
It's a completely fair concern. You don't have to drag rotting logs into your raised beds to get the same effect. Spirit Walker's method harnesses the concept of the forest floor through highly intentional mulching,
Okay.
specifically using grass clippings,
Yeah.
especially on his Ozark homestead. In a wet climate like the Ozarks, grass just grows relentlessly.
Oh, yeah. It never stops.
Exactly. So instead of treating mowing as this annoying chore, he treats it as a resource harvest. He mows weekly just to harvest those clippings.
So he is taking a massive liability, endless lawn maintenance, and turning it into an asset. But are grass clippings really powerful enough to replace industrial nitrogen?
They absolutely are if you understand the application mechanics. You can't just dump a massive wet pile of grass around your pepper plants.
Right, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is. If you do that, the grass ferments anaerobically. It turns into this slimy, foul-smelling map that repels water and breeds disease.
Yuck. So how does he do it?
He applies the fresh clippings in very light, thin layers. This thin layer dries out slightly, preventing the slime, but it accomplishes three crucial things.
Okay, what are they?
First, it blocks UV light from baking that surface microbiology we were just talking about. Second, it drastically reduces water evaporation, which means you irrigate far less.
Which is huge for off-grid survival.
Huge. And third, as the earthworms pull those drying clippings down into the soil, it provides a slow, highly stable release of organic nitrogen. And it doesn't burn the plant roots.
That makes a lot of sense. The earthworms are basically doing the tilling and fertilizing for you. It's literally free fertilizer.
Precisely.
But grass is just one input, right? What really jumped out at me in the source is how Spearwalker handles the broader issue of waste, especially when living off-grid. I mean, when you live down a dirt road in a schoolie or a remote cabin, the municipality isn't coming to pick up your garbage.
No, they're definitely not. You become entirely responsible for your own output. And this is where his composting strategy becomes so vital. He turns that liability into a massive asset.
How so?
Well, his compost pile takes essentially anything that once lived. Obviously, kitchen scraps and weeds, provided you pull the weeds before they go to seed, of course.
Right, nobody wants to plant weed seeds on purpose.
Exactly. But he also incorporates cardboard boxes, paper towels, things like that.
See, this is where I think a lot of people get paralyzed. Because the conventional wisdom around composting makes it sound like a complex chemistry experiment.
Totally.
You read these articles saying you need a strict 30-to-1 ratio of carbon to nitrogen, and you have to monitor the core temperature with a digital probe. Putting an Amazon shipping box in the garden just seems completely counterintuitive. Doesn't it just turn into a soggy mess of paper pulp?
It would, yeah, if there was no biology involved. But cardboard is primarily carbon. It's just processed tree pulp. When you mix that high-carbon cardboard with high-nitrogen kitchen scraps, you fuel thermophilic bacteria.
Thermophilic, meaning they like heat.
Exactly. These heat-loving bacteria break down the complex lignin polymers in the cardboard, and as they feed, they generate intense heat, sometimes upwards of 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, that is hot enough to burn your hand.
It is, and that heat breaks down the cardboard quickly and sterilizes any of those weed seeds we mentioned. Spirit Walker proves that nature will break it all down into dark, rich soil, if just given time. He isn't out there with a calculator measuring ratios.
He's just keeping it simple.
Right. He just ensures a rough balance of brown material, like the paper towels and leaves, and green material, like the scraps. He lets nature do what it spent millions of years perfecting.
So the lesson there is to really just stop overcomplicating it. But bring it back to the listener. Even if you live in the suburbs, rethinking your trash, like your paper towels and your shipping boxes, as future topsoil is a massive psychological shift.
It's the prerequisite for true self-sufficiency.
Yeah, you transition from being a passive consumer dependent on municipal trash removal to an active producer of your own fertility.
And once you master that dead organic matter, the grass, the compost, the cardboard Spirit Walker introduces a much more dynamic layer to the system. He uses living inputs to turbocharge the soil fertility.
Living inputs. Let's get into that, starting with the plants. Because, most people plant a garden solely to extract food from the soil, but Spirit Walker plants specific crops purely to feed the soil itself.
He focuses heavily on the Ozark Razorback cowpea. Now, the cowpea is an incredibly tough, heat and drought-tolerant legume. It produces great food, sure. But Spirit Walker uses it primarily to capture atmospheric nitrogen and inject it directly into the soil.
Wait, how does a plant capture nitrogen from the air?
Cowpeas, like many legumes, have formed a fascinating symbiotic relationship with rhizobium bacteria. These bacteria colonize the roots, creating little nodules. The bacteria literally inhale inert nitrogen gas directly out of the atmosphere, which plants normally can't access, and convert it into bioavailable ammonia.
So they are essentially mining invisible fertilizer out of thin air and banking it in the soil. That's incredible.
It really is. And Spirit Walker notes that even if you never harvest a single pod from that plant, its value is immeasurable. When the season ends, you chop the plant at the base. You let the foliage decompose on the surface, and you leave those root nodules in the ground.
Huh, so as the roots decay, all that banked nitrogen is released perfectly for the next crop to use.
Precisely. It feeds future crops naturally.
That is such an elegant system. So the plants are pulling nitrogen from the sky, but Spirit Walker also employs animals as active workers in this fertility loop. He calls his flock of chickens the Homestead Fertilizer Factory.
A very accurate title if you watch how a chicken actually behaves. A chicken spends its entire waking life aggressively scratching at the ground. They are relentless rototillers.
Oh, they tear up everything.
They do. If you put them over a compost pile or an area heavily covered in organic matter, they will turn it, aerate it, eat the pest insects hiding inside it, and deposit their manure right back into it.
Now let's pause on the manure for a second because I know there is a massive pitfall here that ruins a lot of first-time gardens. It's not as simple as taking a shovel of fresh chicken manure and dropping it next to your heirloom tomatoes.
Oh no. Doing that will absolutely devastate your garden. Spirit Walker points out a highly specific and vital rule regarding animal inputs. Chicken manure is considered biologically hot.
Hot as in chemically.
Yes. It contains extraordinarily high levels of uric acid and active ammonia. If fresh chicken manure touches a plant root, the ammonia will chemically burn and kill the root structure almost instantly.
So it must be composted before going in the garden.
Exactly. It needs to age and be processed by those thermophilic bacteria until it's stabilized.
Okay, so the chickens power the compost pile, but they don't fertilize the plants directly. But what about other animals?
Well, contrast the chickens with his approach to rabbits. Spirit Walker points out that rabbit manure is considered cold. The carbon to nitrogen ratio in a rabbit dropping is already perfectly balanced by the animal's digestive system.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it won't burn anything. Rabbit manure is the only manure he applies completely raw directly onto the garden beds.
Wow. Looking at it from this angle completely shifts the perspective of homesteading. You aren't just raising chickens for the sake of an omelet. The eggs are merely a byproduct. The primary job of the chicken is waste management and fertility production. You're employing them as essential workers in your soil building factory.
They are living infrastructure, and they require no synthetic inputs and leave no toxic residue.
It's brilliant. Knowing the philosophy and the biological mechanisms is half the battle. But if you are listening to this and wondering where you can find the tools, seeds, and knowledge to actually implement Spirit Walker's advice, this is where the broader ecosystem of nomadic enterprises becomes an invaluable tool.
Absolutely.
If you want more free education on off-grid living, survival, and homesteading, they run an incredible network of blogs. You should absolutely check out the Forgotten Wisdom blog, the Bourbon Barrel Apothecary blog, and the Nomadic Creations blog.
The depth of knowledge on those platforms is staggering.
Yeah.
But beyond just reading about it, you have to acquire the physical supplies to build these systems. And through the Preparing for the Collapse site and their eBay store, they highlight exactly what a survivalist needs to start their journey today.
Right. And we have to talk about seed genetics because you can have the best soil in the world, but if you plant weak, chemically dependent seeds, you're going to fail.
Yeah, you need heirloom, non-GMO seeds that are built for resilience.
What specific varieties do they offer that stand out?
Well, take the mullein seeds they offer. Mullein is a powerful medicinal plant, but agriculturally, it drives a massive taproot deep into the earth. It shatters compacted clay and pulls trace minerals up from the deep subsoil.
Making those minerals available to the rest of the garden.
Exactly. They also offer the classic Homestead 24 tomatoes. These are determinate tomatoes with genetics explicitly selected to handle heat and unstable climates.
Which is exactly the kind of weather volatility we are seeing right now.
Right. They stock acorn squash and white sage as well. And because these are heirloom genetics, you can save the seeds from your harvest this year and plant them again next year. You break the cycle of buying seeds every spring.
That is the definition of a closed-loop system.
Mm.
And they supply the survival gear and hardware to support those seeds as well. I saw they have heavy-duty grow bags, like the 50-pack of half-gallon nursery pots, and the large fabric planters.
The fabric planters are brilliant because they naturally air prune the roots.
Air prune.
Yeah, instead of the plant roots circling endlessly like they do in a plastic bucket, the air exposure forces the plant to grow a denser, more fibrous root mass, which absorbs water and nutrients way more efficiently. Plus, if you are living a mobile lifestyle in a schoolie, your garden can literally move with you.
That's amazing. You also really can't overlook the medical and water purification supplies they have. They stock personal outdoor drinking water filters with straws, which is an absolute non-negotiable for a bug-out bag.
Oh, for sure.
And tying into the Bourbon Barrel Apothecary, they provide natural first aid solutions and herbal remedies, having organic dried elderberries for immune system regulation, or their wild-crafted Ponderosa pine resin salve, which is sourced straight from the Arizona wilderness and has incredible natural antimicrobial properties for wound care. That is just as critical as having food.
Because if you can't treat a cut or drink the water safely, all the tomatoes in the world won't save you.
Exactly. Now, I want to make a very strong recommendation here as we start wrapping up. Author Spirit Walker has distilled decades of this hard-won knowledge into the Preparing for the Collapse book series. If you are serious about this lifestyle, titles like Prepare and Maintain Your Bug-Out Bag and Growing, Foraging, and Making Natural Medicine should be on your physical bookshelf today.
Yeah, do not rely on a PDF on an iPad that will die when the grid goes down.
Get the physical books. And there is a massive sale happening on the entire series right now. We have placed a direct link in the episode description to make it easy for you to grab your copies and purchase the series.
Having that physical reference library is totally non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
And, if there is one critical takeaway from Spirit Walker's methodology, it is understanding the true timeline of survival.
Right. It's not an overnight fix.
No, we are so used to the synthetic, overnight results of commercial fertilizers. Building living soil is a long-term investment. Spirit Walker is very transparent about this. It takes about 2 solid years of dedicated mulching, composting, and cover cropping to really see a massive difference and transform dead dirt into a hyper-productive ecosystem.
2 years. But the payoff is independence.
Exactly. Once that microbiological engine is running, it sustains itself. Your reliance on external supply chains drops to zero. He says it best. When you take care of the land takes care of you.
When you take care of the land takes care of you. That is a profound truth to anchor yourself to. So as we close out our discussion today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over for the week ahead. Look around your own property or even just your neighborhood this weekend.
Pay attention to the waste.
Yes, pay attention to the sheer volume of autumn leaves, grass clippings, and cardboard boxes being stuffed into plastic trash bags and hauled off to a landfill. All of that is trapped carbon. What waste material is currently being thrown away that could be the exact foundation your future survival garden needs? Stop throwing away your independence. Rethink your inputs, start building your soil, and take control of your future. Until next time, stay prepared, stay curious, and keep learning.